Boom! We are recording, ladies and gentlemen, and superheroes of the world. Welcome to the Story Tory. Welcome to the not so humble version of my of a kind of makeshift studio. So today is day one of myself working alongside Jordan. Is it Tomasone? Is that how you would say it?
It's pronounced Tomasone.
Tomasone. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So Tomasone, we are doing what is now a regular occurrence of me hosting kind of mentorships, most of the time in Costa Rica, then half the time in Montreal. So this is kind of the Montreal version of another mentorship. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for literally driving here and being a part of this amazing journey. I'm so excited to kind of be in day one and be here alongside you.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. It was a big journey to get Karen, my home on wheels, ready and get here. But like the moment I kind of parked in the driveway, I really felt the energy and the excitement. And getting to know you and Samantha a bit last night has been just like epic. And I had time to meditate and kind of get in the zone this morning to try and fully prepare myself for this next month, because I think it's going to be very transformative for myself. So I'm really looking forward to that. I can feel myself trying to vibrate at higher levels already, and that really excites me, is that change process.
What do you think? So when you mentioned vibrating at higher level, what it immediately says is that there's something that you're doing at low level, which you're aware of,
Yes.
that you feel is like won't be tolerated. And it's not that I'm not tolerating it; it's that you know that you being around me won't tolerate it. And I can answer that question too. So what does that look like for you? Like, where's the low vibration that you're like, that you know you cannot tolerate essentially in this month?
Yeah, the low vibration is basically what I want to do is I want to finally manifest what I've been wanting to do for the past years. And I still have these like subconscious kind of like mindset beliefs in me that I can't fully be successful at what I'm trying to do. So the higher vibration I want to get to is being able to make this real life and be okay with it. And I have a decent amount of family that doesn't think this is like a life to live, or that it's okay, and they don't understand it. And they are very influential on how I've lived my life, and they got me to where I am today. Well, not exactly today, but a couple years ago for sure.
Yeah.
So anything they say or their opinions are very influential on me. So I'm trying to, like, the low vibration I want to get rid of is all of that kind of subconscious stuff that isn't really mine, that doesn't serve me, and just go and vibrate at what I want to do with my life. And that is, live my dream, have Karen skydive all time, and help men and change the world in a very small way.
So, okay, I know what it's like to have a mom. I'll say mom because I think my dad is more of the belief that, do what you love, and I think he for sure had some expectations of how I would operate and do, but I think my mother was more she's more cautious. She's motherly, right? And I understand that that's their job. Their job is to keep us safe. I specifically think about it when you start off as a young boy and you're being raised, their job is to make sure that we don't fall down the stairs or that we can crack our heads open on something or that we don't get hit by a car. Like, there's all these things that they had to teach us. We did not know, right? You're not born intuitively knowing that cars are going to kill you, kind of thing. If you cross the road at the wrong time, you have to learn these things. And so I think that essentially they did a phenomenal job at the end of the day, because there's no ifs or buts about it, at getting you to where you are today. Somehow they did it. Somehow they taught you the things that you needed to know, brought you to the right places, and put a roof over your head for the most part. And at least created a whole lot of opportunity that many people do not have, right? Like, even you living in, how many square feet is your van?
Like 55 square feet.
Great. 55 square feet is like more square feet than some people can afford in their life and have access to in their own life, right? And so I think that the process of going through making your parents proud is a very, very challenging process. And I think it's definitely, from my perspective as an Italian kid, I think it's like it's like a very real thing.
Oh yes.
Yeah, right? Like you understand what I'm talking about here?
Yeah,
Like,
it's the fact that nothing is ever good enough. No matter what you do, you could, do everything that they've ever wanted and even more and give them all they want. But they're going to find something that either you didn't do, you didn't think of, you didn't do it the right way, or, what about X, Y, or Z? And it's always going to be there, and it never stops. And that's the thing that hurts me now too, is every time I do something, I have to make sure I'm proud of myself, because it's never good enough for me. It's like, well, I could have done better. I could do more. Why didn't I get it done before this? And that really had a negative impact on me. It's something I'm trying to be aware of.
yeah. Would you say that you're remotely over that? Like, where on the scale of you feeling like you're enough are you?
Yeah, well, right now I'm I'm aware of it. So I'm not consciously, I'm consciously competent, but I'm not unconsciously competent.
Yeah.
So it's not habit yet, but it's the fact that I'm aware of it and that I'm working on it to the point where after given enough repetitive action, I will be able to get there.
So you're in the state of here and there, you're catching yourself, and then kind of have to rewire it manually. Essentially, you're in a manual mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally, I cannot say that I'm necessarily in that mode yet. I am not even fully in the manual mode of like, I definitely never feel like I'm enough. Almost never. Like literally ever, ever, ever. And I think that's shocking to people. Specifically people who are kind of thrown into the context that you're thrown into. You chose it yourself. But the reality, like, so the context meaning you being in the kind of apprentice position in this category, right? I'm the apprentice position of van life, for example, and the lifestyle that you're living out of a tiny house, kind of, I call it a tiny house. It's not a tiny house. It's a van that you're converting and in the process of turning into your mobile home, basically. And the perspective of not being enough is, from my perspective, it is it's very real that you will face this for a period of time. But I can't say that I feel very proud of many of the things that I have so far been able to do. Here and there, I have moments of pride, and I'm like, I can kind of give myself a pat on the back.
Yeah.
And kind of intellectually, I know I'm doing well in many regards, and I also think that I'm not doing so well in other regards on an intellectual level, but on an emotional level. Is where I feel like I don't feel I'm there at all. I think I can be, I'm very quick to ignore how my heart feels sometimes. Because I'm just really good at operating from a mental space. It's like my mind is so powerful. What I'll say is my two minds are powerful, my gut and my mind. My gut tells me a fuck ton. Right? Like, I'm very, very, very good at following my gut. That's for sure.
That's a good one to have.
Yeah. So it balances out that I can't always feel, or I can't always particularly bring my heart forward. But my mind is what is like kind of the drill sergeant that got me through so much.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so good at this. And I even told you yesterday, I'm like, hey, I'm sometimes not the most congratulatory. Yeah. I'm sometimes not the most like emotionally supportive. And I warn you, not because I don't want to see you or recognize you or think that you're doing good. Think being the key word. It's that I don't, I'm not always sure how I feel about how other people are doing. So I think I'm in the practice not quite yet of feeling like I'm enough, but I'm in the practice of feeling, period.
Yes.
And it's very humbling. It's very challenging. So
Yeah.
where would you say, so let's back up a little bit. Part of what I think I can help you continuously refine, and really you can help you continuously refine, is telling your story.
Yes.
So you've mentioned a piece of your story, but I would love to hear elements of who you are at this state of time, where you are today, and maybe where you want to be tomorrow. And without necessarily the context of this month,
Yeah.
we'll get to that. But just tell me your story as you see fit. Start wherever you want, end wherever you want. What does that look like?
Yeah, awesome. I do, now that we've talked a lot, I do like practicing telling my story, and I feel like you're right, because you tell your story in a different way depending on the context of the person and whatnot. But yeah, that being said, I always like to start my story off with kind of what made me switch to starting to develop myself. So as a high school kid, I wanted to be Mr. Popular. I wanted to have the girls. I wanted to be, captain of the football team. I wanted to try out for the football team, didn't make the cut, and continually struggled to the point where I was like, you know what? If I call this kid out for a fight and I beat him up, everybody will love me. And it just made sense, right? Like high school. And I'll never forget how I got to the fight, which was I had to get a ride, and a guy that I kind of knew, he was like more popular. I got a ride in the back of his pickup truck. Like that shows you how much people loved me. It was the fact that I couldn't even get a ride in a car. I had to go in the back of a truck to get to my own fight. And
Wow.
The only thing I remember from the fight is swinging and missing, buddy's face. And then we kind of paused, and I like touched my lip, and my lip was bleeding. And I was like, hey, like I'm done. And then I got another guy I knew. I got in the back of his car. And then all of a sudden I was home, and I was just like bawling my face off in front of my brother. So I had a huge black eye and a huge bloody lip. And the fight was on a Friday, so it took the whole weekend to like cry and heal.
So would you say you lost?
Yes.
Okay.
He hit me twice. I didn't hit him once.
Wow.
So yeah, no injuries on the knuckles. It's a good telltale that you lost the fight.
You lost. Yeah. If your knuckles don't hurt and your face is bloody and his isn't, I think you lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing that made me switch was when I went to school on the Monday morning, and just the looks that people gave me, just like staring at me like, you're below me, you're just not on my level, and this and that. And that's when I realized that screw everybody else, I'm just going to do me. So this was in grade 11, like the tail end of grade 11. And ever since then, I was just like, hey, I'm going to find people who actually give a shit about me. I'm going to live my life and start trying to better myself. And ever since then, it's been this like progressive uphill, where the point where I got a girlfriend in grade 12, then I went to university and tried to, blank slate in university, made some friends, dropped out of university.
What did you start in university?
I did mechanical engineering. So the mechanical engineering was fun to start, lots of hands-on things in the lab, doing these cool things, making bolts, CNC. I was loving it. I had like straight 90s up until winter started. Realized that I could skip school and go snowboarding instead. Nice. So I did a lot of that to the point where I hit academic probation. The environment I was in, because I went to school in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, became I just didn't fit in. I made some friends, but the atmosphere and everything, the dynamics just wasn't working for me. Going across the bridge every day, not fun. Engineering, for those who've done it, I congratulate any engineer, because engineering is a very stressful 4 to 5 years of your life. And that was something I didn't want to do with the 4 years of my life. So I said, fuck it, I'm going to quit, and I'm just going to learn how to make money. So that's what I did. I worked as a detailer for the summer. And then I would just...
Detailers are like for like the cars, right?
Yeah,
so
sorry.
you're just clarifying. So detailers is you going into expensive cars, essentially, not always expensive cars, but just making sure they're like super clean, like in the vents and shit, like really getting detailed, basically, right?
Yeah, so you make a car look brand new. So this is where I learned how to be very detail oriented, and also focus on like one part of the car at a time and clean that, versus just like go and vacuum everywhere. It's like, no, like vacuum, clean, do everything in this one area, So it's done. You don't have to come back here.
Mm.
So yeah, then that works for the summer. And then in October, I was just like, I'm just going to find ways to make money. So I did the whole Jerry Seinfeld method, and I did a calendar with the big X's, and I tried to think of a business idea every single day.
Jeez.
And I made it 21 days, and then I ended up running into a friend of my mother's who gave me a job at an environmental engineering firm. So I was like, I might as well take this. I wasn't planning on working, but I took it. And yeah, I did that for 9 months. And I realized that, and then I had another girlfriend at the time, saved a bunch of money. So I got that, everything. But then I was like, I feel like I'm, not to make fun of you that you're 30 now, but
Sure. Yeah.
I was like, I feel like I'm 30 because I have a girlfriend, I have a job, I just go to work and I spend time with my girlfriend, and like, that's it, that's life. And I was like, I'm 19. Fuck this. So I decided to go back to school, and I wanted to go as far away from Sault Ste. Marie, which is where I'm from, as possible. Well,
Where's Sault Ste. Marie?
Sault Ste. Marie is like if you go to Sudbury, which is like 3 hours north of Barrie, Ontario.
Yeah.
And then you go west 3 more hours. And if you're ever looking at a map of Canada, the U.S., you got Lake Superior, Lake Huron, and Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
Right dead smack in the center.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I ended up going to Kingston, Ontario, which is like a 10-hour drive. But before I did that, I found this whole Instagram world of like van life and adventuring and people who just like live and travel all the time. And I was like, if they can do it, I can do it.
How many years ago is that?
This is 2013.
Okay.
Or 2014, one of those years. And so I spent 3 months buying like backpacking and adventuring gear. And then my contract ended like middle of July, like July 16th or something like that. And then I went on a 3-week road trip by myself in my PT Cruiser, hitting up provincial parks all across Ontario, backpacking, car camping, everything in between. And this is when I realized that there's more people like me out there. They're living it, they're real, and it's okay to do this. But bring it back to the family a little bit. The first night, I drove like 2.5 hours to this campsite, another half an hour in the bush, another like half an hour hike to get to the camp. And my family is like so paranoid, and I love them so much that I literally, the next day, I got up in the morning, hiked back to my car, drove out of the bush, drove another 40 minutes down the highway to get the cell phone signal so that I could call my family and tell them that I was alive.
The next day?
The next day.
One day?
So it hadn't even been like 24 hours.
Oh, jeez. That's pushing it.
Yeah, so they're all worried that I was going to get eaten by a bear. But anyways, this road trip is where I started to find myself and really trust myself. Because it was just me.
I think it's a key word to me. It's trust yourself.
Yeah. And
you find yourself when you trust yourself.
Yeah, trust is huge.
Well, because you can hear yourself when you start to trust yourself. You don't. What I mean by hear yourself is you don't hear your mom in your head saying, "Be careful, the bear might eat you." Blah blah blah. Right? You're not hearing the thing that that our parents would maybe put into our life. What you're hearing is your own cautions, your own fears, your own thoughts fully, as much as possible anyway. And then you can move through all those different scenarios, essentially.
Yeah, it's just you, your mind, and your opinion, and that's it. And that's what is a really cool thing to achieve. And I spent a lot of time alone because of all the backpacking. And as well, because I went west from Sault Ste. Marie, like towards Thunder Bay. And then there's Highway 11 that goes like all the way. It's like a big rainbow from Thunder Bay to North Bay. But as we live in Canada here, and all the weather systems go west to east, and as I was going west to east, I followed this massive, like torrential downpour for 4 days straight. So I like camped in Thunder Bay. It rained. I drove like 4 hours. It rained. Kept going. Rain. And this is when you like fully hit like a limit where you're like, everything is just wet, everything is shitty, like there's nothing to be like happy about. Like there's no sunshine, excuse me, no birds, nobody there with you to just boost you up. It's like if you want to be happy or you want to feel good, you got to make that within yourself. And when I went through that, and I ended up canoeing to an island when it was raining, and like almost like tipping over the canoe and drowning, and like all these crazy adventures that I never would have went on if I did have my parents' voice or my family's voice being like, "Oh, don't do that. You're gonna die," right? So when you go through that and you fully trust yourself. And that's when I went into college right after that. And I was just like ready to hit the ground running because I had this big trust and belief in me. And then I went through college, and college was, I would say I had like the top 10% of people who go to college, I had like that experience. Like, cause not everybody, goes and they make all these friends and they go to these parties or whatever, they do really well, whatever they have their vision for college. Like, I had that. Like, I lived like a TV show college experience. I moved in, and the floor I was on, there was like 12 of us. We were all 19, and one of my biggest fears was being around a bunch of 17-year-olds, and we couldn't go to the bar. But found a bunch of friends. We were all 19. We all just like.
I love how one of your fears is that you can't go to the bar with people. That's hilarious. Okay.
I just didn't want to be like the old.
Yeah,
dude,
I get it. Yeah.
But yeah, so a bunch of friends, and then we like did everything together. We went to the bar 3 nights a week. We did a intramural dodgeball thing. We became best friends. And then college is a lot easier than engineering because I went to school to be a wind turbine technician. So it's just a lot of hands-on stuff. Very, like, I would say like almost high school grade math instead of calculus, which was nice. And like all the dudes in my program, which there was only one girl because it's a very masculine field, were super chill. And everything was great. Then I ended up moving into a house with 2 guys from my program, one girl, Megan, who had a boyfriend. So there was like this like good looking blonde girl with awesome hot friends, and she had a boyfriend. So there wasn't any like complications there or drama.
No tension, but she brought her friends, and that's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we had her friend who was like kind of like a bit of the outcast, but he ended up like dropping out after first semester. So we had this 5-bedroom house with 2 fridges for only 4 people. And it just all flowed, and I was doing well with girls and this and that. And I really started to, like live my life to the point where in the last semester, I was like, okay, I have to find a job. Went really hard with interviews and like learning how to be good at interviews and all these skills and like making cold calls and this and that. Ended up getting 9 interviews, which most of my classmates got like 3. And then I ended up getting paid $600 to go to an interview.
What?
Which is crazy. So the quick story on that is in between first year and second year, I got a 3-month job doing oil changes at a wind farm in Sault Ste. Marie, and the company there is called Brookfield. So got to know their manager a bit, and then there's another Brookfield wind farm in Windsor, Ontario.
Okay.
So I had sent them my resume, but I didn't hear anything back from this Windsor wind farm. So I messaged Kevin, who was the manager in Sault Ste. Marie. I was like, hey, Kevin, I'm trying to apply to this job here. Like, can you help me out?
Hook me up, yeah.
So he does that, and
by the way, keep talking. I'm just going to go to the bathroom real quick.
Okay.
You're good, though.
So then
I will hear you.
So yeah, then Kevin messages this guy, and then like his assistant calls me. And at this time, she calls me while I'm in London, Ontario, which is also pretty close. So she's like, hey, can you come to this interview in 2 weeks? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I probably could, but it'd be better if I could do it this week because I'm already in the area. And I'd rather not drive another 6 hours to get to the interview. So she's like, all right, well, hold on a minute. So I hold on a little minute, and then she goes and talks to the manager, and she comes back. She's like, hey, Jordan, would it be all right if we pay your mileage for you to come to the interview at this specific date? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, no hesitation, no nothing. I was like, yeah, that sounds good. So during the next week, I went back to Kingston, Ontario, and then I ended up somebody hit my car when I was parked. So then I had to go through insurance and get my car fixed. So while my car was getting fixed, I ended up getting a rental vehicle. And that was the exact time when I had to go to Windsor for this interview. So this is just an extra bonus because I didn't have to put the extra, 1,200 kilometers on my car. I put it on a rental car, and it was a nice smooth drive, and I didn't have to worry about it. So I go there, I go to the interview, like totally bomb the interview. I think it was my worst interview out of the 9 that I had. And I just like, the energy wasn't very good. It just seemed like way too serious for me. And I tried to drop a joke where they asked me what my greatest weakness was. And I said chocolate, which was like just a silly answer that I had never tried, but I thought I would try it. And they just weren't really there. And they were very pushy with their questions. And as the interview ended, I just, double checked to make sure that they were going to pay for my mileage. And they're like, yeah, like no problem. Like, okay. So I didn't, think anything of it from then. Drive back to Kingston with the rental car, this and that. And then I think I emailed them like a week later. They're like, yeah, they'll get back to me. And then they got back to me like 3 weeks later, and they're like, yeah, sorry, we picked somebody else for the job. And I was like, hey, no problem. And I knew the money was supposed to come in, but I didn't really think about it. So then I ended up getting 3 job offers. I got one from GE, one from Nextera, and one from TechEL. So out of the best with GE, because it was a travel job all across Canada, and the wage was also the highest. So I went with them. And then I started like a month after college. I went home for a bit, and it was literally like the day, like the morning I was about to leave to go to Windsor to actually go party with my buddies on the May long weekend before I started work. I checked the mail one last time, and then sure enough, there's this envelope from Brookfield. And I was like, no way, like literally the day I leave. So I grab it and I open it, and it's a check for $634. So I went down to Windsor with my buddies and spent all of it, had probably one of the most epic weekends of my life with my buddies.
Jesus.
All because I got paid to go to an interview.
Wow. That seems... I don't think I've ever been paid for an interview. I haven't taken many interviews in my life.
Oh, yeah, true, yeah.
In fairness. The only job I've ever had is I worked at what is the Quebec version of a Home Depot, basically. Okay. So there's something called Renault Depot, which is the same, basically the same thing. Legitimately the same thing. They just have, like, instead of orange, they're green or like a teal type color. So you go through all of this, you get a job, you work at GE. Now all of a sudden you're kind of living what I think the average 20-year-old, I guess at that time, you're roughly around 19, 20 years old at that point.
Yes.
You are surely making more money than the average 20-year-old is. You're doing a technical skill that it very specifically went to college for. So it's like you were groomed for this one thing, essentially. And now you're barreling down this path of, I'll call it normalcy, right? Normalcy meaning not that you are normal compared to, like, not to compare you to others, but normalization of your own habits. Essentially, your own habits are kind of becoming circular. They're, you wake up, you figure out where you're going to work, and then you get there, you do the work on the turbine, you call it a day at a certain time, and then you keep, you're living this lifestyle essentially where there's lots of routine.
Yes.
And so what gets you to discovering van life? You had already discovered it ish, but what gets you to be like, okay, I'm dropping my life, I'm jumping on board in an entrepreneurial journey and a hero's journey to face the inner fear that you had about living the van life and making it possible, which is what you said before. It's not me putting words in your mouth. It's you kind of going through you're essentially seeking that discomfort so that you could find your way through the different things. And I say this because I'm also wearing a hat that says fear and it's crossed out, right? And it's some of my favorite YouTubers that are called Yes Theory. They do these challenges that essentially break that push the limits of their comfort zone. And they kind of make social commentary through challenges and through comfort zone, so through seeking discomfort, essentially. So this is part of their clothing line. Okay. So I bought this hat. So what gets you through that stage? What makes you break through that barrier and kind of face your fears and start leaning into the discomfort?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I really just enjoy being uncomfortable because I've realized that being uncomfortable makes you grow. And that's like, kind of take it back to that road trip I did. That's kind of what I found was like, when it's shitty and rainy and uncomfortable, you find ways to figure things out. But yeah, so what happened with like the day job and the routine was like the first year was just beyond me, like way too much. And then I went to like training after a year and I got more comfortable with it. And then, then it became more routine, which, kind of seems crazy to, I would say, most people who have like a normal 9-to-5 job and they have a home, because I was traveling across Canada. So you're like, what do you mean you're traveling this and that? Like, and yeah, but eventually traveling becomes routine. Like you have your set kit of traveling stuff and it's usually pretty much ready to go.
And were you driving or you were?
Both. Like I was all across Canada. I went West Coast to East Coast.
Yeah, but not necessarily driving. Sometimes you'd fly.
Yeah, sometimes I'd fly, yeah. So fly, drive, fly. Sometimes we're driving an hour and a half to a site every morning, which is crazy. I've driven a lot in the past 2 years. But yeah, so, and then, yeah, I guess how you came up, which is cool, and this is why I love the universe, is I had worked up in northern BC for a month, and I had a week off because we would do 4 weeks on, 1 week off. Again, a wonderful schedule, as most people would see it. And I was like, hey, I'm going to go to Banff. I've heard good things about Banff. And actually, one thing I'll throw in there, too, is...
Oh, yes, this is how we met.
Mindset. This is like a sidetrack, but so when I was in college, I had a buddy of mine that I lived with, Rusty. And Rusty's like, Tomo, as they used to call me, Tomo, in college. He's just like, Tomo, like, out of anybody I know, like, you would love the mountains. And I was like, Rusty, you're probably right. Like, one day. And then I was like, no, I stopped myself. I was like, no.
2 days.
I am going to get there. I am going to see the mountains. And then you flash forward 2 years later, I went to the mountains. So I like to throw that in there because it is, like, your thoughts are very powerful. So if you say, I choose not to, instead of I can't, or instead of one day you say, no, I will or I am, eventually it's going to happen.
So to build on your little tangent here for a second, one of the things that Garrett, who now works alongside me, he was one of the people who did the second ever mentorship I had ever ran as officially.
Okay.
He was part of the second mentorship program in May, 2 and a bit years ago, basically, right? Today we're September, whatever, 4th.
Yeah.
So he came and he's like, one of the most profound things that you said, you didn't say to me, you just said it. And I thought it was so life-changing for me, is that he was like, somebody asked me, oh, have you been to Thailand? And then my answer was, well, not yet. And he's like, I don't think I've ever before really thought that my answer was always yes or no to things.
Yeah.
Like, I have not done something. He's like, but the way you answered it alluded to the fact that you would one day get there. And he's like, it seems so trivial. Like, it seems so minute. He's like, but it's not, because what you're saying is you're limitless. You're saying, like, you will travel the world. You will go to Thailand. And not that I had a plan to. I have no plan still to this day of going to Thailand. And it's not that I don't want to go. It's more so that I just it's not in the cards yet.
Yeah.
But the reality is that I know I will go there one day.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I just know. And I don't know why I know. But I think and this is where it goes away from the mind, into a little bit of the heart, but mainly into the gut. Is my gut tells me I'm going to travel the world all the time, because I'm the type of person who will inspire and bring messages and be willing to say yes to adventures. And I'm just going to be that person.
Yeah.
So going to a new country like Thailand will be exciting for me no matter what stage I'm at some point, and surely I will do it. So anyway, just to build on the tangent, he's like, one of the biggest things I learned from the mentorship was just to not say no, to not close doors with certainty, but to just say, like, maybe, or not yet. Anyway, little side note, but
So I'll bring it back to Banff.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I was in Banff, had a couple of things that I wanted to do, and I was still trying to figure things out. So this one day I went for lunch. It's like, oh, what am I going to do today? I don't know. So I eat lunch, and I hear these guys behind me. There's like 3 of them wearing suits and stuff, all talking like production, media, this and that. And I was like, these guys seem interesting. Like, I'm trying to do this whole like YouTube video thing. I'm vlogging, all this kind of stuff. So I was like, all right, I better talk to them. So I was like, I kind of had like these nervous thoughts and this and that. But I went through and I was like, hey guys, and just heard you guys talking about like production, this and that. Like, what do you guys do? And the guy's like, well, I'm a producer, he's a producer, and this guy, makes TV shows. And I was like, cool. Like, why are you guys here? And they're like, oh, there's a World Media Festival going on at this hotel. And I was like, cool. Like, I'm a YouTuber. I'm trying to do this and that. They're like, well, you should probably just go there and hang out. And I was like, all right. So I just hopped in a cab, took the cab to the hotel. And if you've ever been to Banff, I don't know what it's called, but it's just like,
I've never been to Banff, actually.
It's this like massive castle of a hotel. Like, it's luxury to the 9. Like, it's a castle. So I walk in and I see a couple like Banff Media Festival things, and I see this one guy just sitting down. And I just go and talk to him. I was like, hey, because he had the badge thing. Like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, da 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 da. And he's like, yeah, well, you got to meet this guy, Milton. Like, he does YouTube videos and this and that. And I was like, cool. He's like, yeah, well, like, you can come with me. Like, I don't know if you'll get in, but like, come with me. And then if I find Milton, I'll bring him out for you. And I was like, all right, cool. So this guy, I forget his name, but anyways, he's super nice with me. So we go up to like the level where like the main entrance is, and we just walk right in.
Yeah, no
Like,
stop.
no, nothing, no scan your nothing. I was like,
That's the way to do it.
and I get in there and it's like all sponsored by Bell, and there's like these white leather chairs everywhere and like all these like food and tea and all these snacks. And I'm just like so overwhelmed. Like, this is crazy. Like, and there's all these. Like,
The main reason you're overwhelmed is because you got in without having to go through the regular door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's just all these people that are like into similar things, right? So I'm like, hey, what do I want to do? So I just start, so he sees the guy Melton, who he wants me to introduce me to. He's talking to somebody else. So I was like, hey, I'm just going to go run around and stuff because he had to go somewhere else. So I go run around and start talking to people. And then I talked to like 5 people. Nothing really vibrates. And then I talked to this one guy and he's like, this is really cool, but like you have to pay because like people pay money to come in here. And I was like, shit, like this guy's ratting me out, but I can't just like run away from him. So he brings me out to the entrance. And I talked to the main guy, and he's like, yeah, this is like a $2,500 weekend or $800 a day.
Mm.
And I was like, no. So I asked him if I could just like chill out, you know, not in the main area, but like in the other like social area. He's like, yeah, no problem. So I do that a bit, keep trying to find people. Then I end up finding
Steven.
Yes. Talk to him a bit, tells me about his things, gives me his card. And I go meet a couple other people. End up rounding up like, I think there was 5 of us, including Steven. And we just all became friends. And then I ended up leaving for a bit, and I had to like go and eat some trail mix, which I already brought, so I could like gain some more energy. And I was like, hey, I'm just gonna try and go walk back in because there was this thing at 4:00 I wanted to go to. So again, I just walk right in, and I go and sit down. And I go to this whole meeting. Milton ended up being one of those guys. So Milton and I met up at that meeting. And then there's like this after thing social, and then I'm in there and I'm getting like free like little snacks and like free Coronas and all this kind of stuff. And then we go to the award ceremony. And again, before the award ceremony, there's like big thing. People run around with trays and food and stuff. And I'm like, sweet. And then I go into the award ceremony, and the award ceremony is hosted by Anthony Anderson. So I don't know if you know Anthony Anderson, but he was in, he has a new TV show. He's a bigger black dude. He's in Transformers. That's why I really love him. And Kangaroo Jack, if you go way back.
Damn.
But a guy like I loved as an actor.
Yeah.
And he's hosting it. So I'm like, again, like my mind is blown. Like, this is crazy. So we go through the whole award ceremony. I'm like, this is cool. It's awesome. It all ends. And then I was like, because like, I don't know, like I love being uncomfortable and I love pushing my limits. Because it's just limiting beliefs, right? So I was like, I wonder if I could just sneak backstage and just go see Anthony or something, right? So I like walk towards the front of the stage, and I'm like, I don't know. And then I see, you know, where like the entrance is to the back, and I was like, fuck it. So I just like, and I just wheel right back there. And then I see the 2 models that were like handing out the trophies and stuff, and I ended up chatting with them, and they made a comment of their face hurt because they have to smile for like 2 hours straight. I thought that was interesting. And then I was like, oh, like, where's all the actors? And like, oh, I don't know. They always go, you know, right off the stage and this way. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm in the backstage and I go, you know, to the other side of the stage. And then there's like another like curtain to go around the curtain. And then there's this like butler dude
Green room.
with glasses of champagne. So I was like, sweet. So I grab the champagne, and then everybody else is in, like, just picture this for a second. Everyone else is like full out, like full makeup, suits, wonderful shiny dresses, everything beautiful, champagne. And there's me wearing like my camping, like hiking shorts, a t-shirt. I have my tripod strapped on like over my shoulders, and a day pack, and like my water bottle, and then this glass of champagne. So I stick out a lot. And then I go and I see these 4 actors that I had talked to earlier. So I go and talk to them, like, you know, good job, da-da-da. And I was like, oh, like, have you guys seen Anthony? And they're like, yeah. He's like, he's right there. And like, Anthony Anderson is like literally like 5 feet away from me. So at this point, I am definitely starstruck. I'm like, this is crazy. But like, I still want to go and push the limits even further and see if I go just be like, hey, Anthony, like, loved you in Transformers. And like, that's it. And as I take a sip of my champagne, this guy taps me on the shoulder. And he's like, politely asked me, he's like, I was told to ask, you know, if you belong here. And I was like, you know, no, I don't. He's like, well, as he grabs my glass of champagne, like, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And I was like, okay, like, I didn't want to push it any further. Like I'd already gone through so much. So I ended up leaving, didn't get to meet Anthony and this and that. But I was like super stoked. I pushed really far, made all these friends. And then Steven, I sent him an email because I did a bunch of follow-ups. And he's like, yeah, you got to meet Marc, which is then you. And then we set up a call, which would have been June of last year.
Yeah, something like that.
Or July.
It would have been at least a year ago.
Yeah, I think it was June.
Yeah. Would have been at least a year ago, I think. Yeah.
And then, we kind of stayed in touch. Well, we had that call, and that call was very impactful to me. 100%.
What would you say was so particularly impactful?
Just that you as a person and how much you have done. And how you took the time to talk to me. And I was, well, you more so...
I didn't just talk to you.
Yeah, no.
That's what I would say.
You inspired me, and you also mentioned the whole thing of like the investment portion of investing in someone to coach you.
Yeah.
And that kind of like stuck in my mind for quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I called you out. And that's the way I see it. I called you out to say, because you said, I want to do coaching, and I want to do YouTube, I want to do these things. Like you were saying a bunch of different things, all of which are coherent and like make sense for what you're talking about. I still think you're on that similar path. I mean, over time, you change pieces of it maybe, or the ways that you express it. But the main thing that essentially I was saying was, dude, you can't be a coach without being coached. Because then you don't know what it's like.
Yes.
And if you don't know what it's like to be coached, then you don't know how to be a good coach. It's like, it's just like, who's the best hockey coach is a former player.
Yeah.
It's not the person who's never played hockey that's going to be a phenomenal hockey coach. And it's not even just because they can't understand. Like, they could have watched hours and hours and hours and be a great tactician of a coach. But if they've never been in the mindset, if they've never experienced like the, reasonably in the mind, it's like, no, you just need to go here and do the play. But sometimes it's not about that. Yeah. It's not about just the technical and the mental elements of certain things. Sometimes it's about the heart and the emotion of being like, yes, I know I should just lift the next, bench press or whatever. Or I know I should just do the drill, but you don't always feel that way. You don't always feel the same pressures of that thing because you don't, if you're a star hockey player, you were out partying last night sometimes. You know what I mean? And you don't know what that's like. You don't know what it's like to always be treated like you're some special person, but also be treated like, I don't know, you have a lot of money. You know what I mean? And you have a lot of stardom. So now all of a sudden you have to pay for everything, or you are expected to be a particular way, right? So essentially, it's like you if you have had the experience of something, you are the best person to then coach the next person through it. And if you haven't had the experience of something, then essentially you could help in that thing, but you are likely not going to be the best coach you could be without having experienced it. So I kind of called you out on that, not in a way to hurt you, right? Not in a way to be like, that's bullshit. It's more, it was, and this is, this is my kind of way of supporting people. It's more of being like, hey, that's great. I think everything you're talking about is super possible and reasonable. And here's how it's more reasonable. Here's how it's more doable and impactful and more likely to support the vision that you have. You know what I mean? And here's what I believe will support that. And then I told you at the end of the day, I'm like, whether you invest in me or anybody, invest. You know what I mean? And it really wasn't like attached to the outcome of that call, more so than I was attached to, I heard your story and I wanted to make sure that I provided value. And that's it. So yeah. And then, so fast forward a couple months later, as I recall it, you just kind of reached back out.
Yeah.
And we got on a call, and then I basically said, hey, man, I think the best way forward is that maybe you just come and do a mentorship with me in September here in Montreal. And, I mean, I don't know if there's other elements to that, the mental story of that, that you want to cover.
Yeah, definitely.
But, I mean, that's essentially what happened. What would you say went down in your mind that led you to, like, being a fuck yes, essentially, to being here today?
Yeah, so I took your advice and I invested in a life coach from January to March. And then I saw the value in that. I was like, whoa, what I did in 3 months might have taken me a year. can get to, and if I would have gotten there. And then I was like ready to quit my job and this and that. And I was like, hey, well, Marc's been here for, a little bit. He sees something in me and I know that he can help. So I was like, hey, I kind of planned it out. And I was like, hey, I want Marc to mentor me, but I had to make sure, I wanted to like, make
Do
sure.
it smoothly.
Yeah, exactly. So that you were interested too, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure that I could commit, or you could commit to like me coming to see you once a month. Like that was my
that was your
mentorship.
ideal. Yeah.
And then you came back with like, yes, like I want to mentor you and you're coming to my place for a month. And I was like, 100%. And at this time, and then you're like, yeah, you can live in the van and this and that. Cause I already mentioned the van. And I was like, yes. It just all sounded amazing. Cause
no, I gave you a package of what you said you wanted.
And more.
Sure. Yeah. And more. You're right. You're right.
Delivering, which you always do. So that was huge too. I was like, well,
yeah.
Look at all this.
The reality is, the way I see it is like, it is over delivering. People are like, wait, you're going to work with somebody for like a whole month? They're like, how much are you charging for that? Like the average coach, like some coaches, including myself, I charge $2,000-$3,000 for 4 calls a month.
Yeah.
For 4 hour-and-a-half long, give or take calls a month. So they're like, if you're spending an entire month with somebody, like how the hell do you even come close to pricing that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not about, at that point, it's not it's more than coaching. That's why I don't call it coaching.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it's not, I personally don't resonate with the word coaching because it doesn't speak to the real thing that I am interested in doing, which is I am taking, and I told you this last night, bets on people. I'm taking bets on people that my ripple of impact is lived through not only what I do, but now through the people who I support deeply do. And so if I can deeply impact the way that you are going to show up as a coach or as a van lifer or as a whatever, if I can inspire you, then my wave is continuing through you. And it's not mine because my wave is continuing through somebody else who inspired me. Really, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just a wave is continuing through you. So, I don't want to say that all these things start at me. I think my genius is that I'm unique enough to do things differently. I've done a lot. I invent programs. I invent things that most have not done. You know what I mean? Like I don't know of another coach that has a month-long mentorship program. I really don't.
No.
And I'm sure there's somebody out there in the world that does, but I don't know of any who it wasn't that it was inspired by anybody else. I was like, this is the way that people will succeed the most. And so I always get back to that question, like, what is it that this person needs to truly have the biggest amount of success and to really move the needle as much as possible? And I want to shift gears into that because, we could talk all day and we've already talked, believe it or not, 47 minutes.
Oh,
but now it's time to get to the difficult portion of what this is going to be, because I understand the story that got you here. I actually said a bunch of different elements of the story I hadn't yet heard, which is great. It's particularly the fight element of it. I think is very interesting from my perspective. But all of that being said, you're here. You had to sprint a little bit to get here, meaning you really put in the hours to get Karen ready and drive your van all the way out here. I definitely, here and there we touched base as from the day you committed to coming here to just kind of moving the needle. The main thing I would say is I just focused on how clear can you get on the pillars of what you want to create, and the shifts you want to create in others, and then how much can you test the theory of those pillars on somebody,
yes.
Right? Beyond just your own mental masturbation of like, I think that this is good. Put it out and see what happens, right? Where are people stumbling? Where are people not? So where are you at with what is it that you want to create? What is it that you want to see happen in the next, let's say, 30 days? And where is this going to go? What is the impact that you hope to have? What is, in the same way that I create, like, this is the outcome I want for people by the end of this thing. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So so what I want to do is coach and do personal development for men specifically. Mm-hmm. So because of I have my story, and basically I want to do the same thing for other people. Is I want to take men stuck in their parents' basement, stuck in their job, stuck with their finances, stuck with their relationship, whatever it might be, and get them out of that. Whether it be through coaching, through social media, or as well through the course I want to develop. And yes, so the focus, as you mentioned, is these pillars, and this kind of just came to me as well. It's like I've developed myself in 6 areas of life. So I want to focus on these, and the way I kind of progressed in life, or the way I learned them, is how I want to teach them as well. But yeah, and the big goal of like these 30 days is kind of what I've broken up into like these 4 weeks that we kind of have is like this week is really for me observing a lot and trying to see, you know, how you work with me, and how your system works, so that when you go to your mastermind for a bit, I can take this week to find my own flow and really develop myself so that I can work best with you when you come back.
Sure.
And then that is when we really dive deep to not dive deep, but we're on similar levels. Because right now I'm on building Karen mode, and I'm trying to escape that. Yeah. Not escape it.
Switching modes.
Yes. Yeah. And then we had the last week to really fine tune things. And at the end of it, at the end of our time together, I want to be like confident and like in this community that you have, and just be able to be okay with everything that I want to do. I want to be able to make an online course and know how to do that. I want to know how to plan. I want to know how to be organized. I want to be efficient as an entrepreneur. Because as we talked last night, I have little bursts of this and that, and I can do social media. I can build Karen. I can do an online course. I can do these things, but only one at a time. And I want to be able to manage all those in a way that
as a lifestyle.
Yeah, as a lifestyle that produces content all the time and courses and this and that, and it flows. Because right now it's like just bursts of stuff, and I know I can do it, like I said, but I'm just really tired right now of this, you know, me juggling.
Hot, cold.
Yes, I'm, you know, and as I built Karen, and I realized I didn't plan enough, and I just want it to be, as much as it can be, you know, organized chaos versus just chaos. Because it's manageable.
Yes.
But it doesn't get you as far as you would like, in my opinion.
I mean, I personally agree. I think the first call that we had, and I repeated it last night when you got here, the one thing, if you can learn a single thing from me and think that everything else that I say is full of shit, the only thing that I would challenge you to never call full of shit is that you need to understand that the only challenge is with yourself. And like for everything, like the price point you're going to charge, that's a challenge. That's an inner challenge, because it's a price point of value that you think you are providing. You know what I mean? The way you show up on lives, right? Or create social media content is going to be reflective of the skill set you believe you have, right? And the things that you believe people want to hear and need to hear. So all of these things are just games with yourself in a way. But the only thing that is a game that is truly played with the universe is also how you manage the one thing that all of us have. And it's now. And now. And now. And now. And so you looked at your, you know, show that a little bit to the camera over here. Do it to that camera. Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of gifted him a Now watch, which is a watch that I actually wear. It's all over the Superhero Academy website and other places. I gifted that watch, and it's like the most, I like to joke that it's the most accurate watch in the world. Because it doesn't actually tell time, but it does, right? Ironically. But that's all you have. Mm-hmm. All you have is a series of nows. Now, if in the most hedonistic version of life, you live purely in flow state. Flow state meaning I enter a space and I just flow whatever direction I want to go, like water. Now, what's interesting about water is water does go to a particular direction. It goes down. It goes to gravity. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying down as in metaphorically down, like in the up or down, meaning one is better than the other, but essentially that's where it goes. And then eventually it evaporates and it goes back up, and then it comes right back down. And it has that's its cycle. But it goes in one direction, which is the path of least resistance. Here's the thing though. You said yourself that the path of least resistance isn't the path where you grow. The path of resistance is where you gain the most amount of comfort zone growth. The most amount of learning potential and value is not in just chaos. It's in taking chaos and being able to bring your will, your heart, your mind, your gut to the table that says, hey, all this chaos is going on and I was able to create this. And that's my art. Right? And I think everything is an art. I talk about freedom culture to empower and encourage all individuals to spread their unique gifts to the world. That means, from my perspective, to spread your art to the world. Your art is how you choose to show up in your now and create out of the chaos something that is uniquely yours and uniquely valuable from your perspective out to others. And the value that you're creating isn't inherent in how other people perceive it, but how other people perceive it make it a business. The art that you create becomes a business the day that you are able to communicate the value of your art to another person and have that person say, I'm interested. That's business. So your ability to show up and create art as much as possible then is upstream of you being able to create value for people with your art that then they receive and say, yeah, I'm interested. And here's some money for that art.
Yeah.
So people focus on, how do I make money? How do I live the free life? And they start at the end of the race. Right? And I think you, from my perspective, sometimes think about the end of the race and then you build things based not on what you want, but sometimes what you don't want. And that's supernatural. I became an entrepreneur not because I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but it's because I knew I didn't want to be a 9-to-5er. I definitely knew that. Yeah. I knew I didn't want a boss. So essentially, I went through the process of elimination that eventually ends up at, well, maybe you should be your own boss. Maybe you should not have a 9-to-5. Maybe you should follow your own passions and bliss and see what happens. So, but I didn't know where I would be. I didn't know I would be right here, right now, talking to you, doing mentorships, doing podcasts and whatever. I didn't know that. Yeah. What I knew is that if I create my art and I live by my highest excitement and I'm able to organize that art in a way that allows me to express that art to other people. And expressing isn't just a word thing. It's a demonstration thing. So many arts are visual arts, right? I can express the value of my art by showing you a canvas and then saying, what emotion does it evoke in you? So art is the words that you use, the stories that you tell, but it's also the colors you choose on your website. It's also the video you create without words on your Facebook page. It's also it is all the many things that you do all the time that are your art. And I called your van a driving billboard. It is a billboard to your lifestyle, and your lifestyle is your art. So the only thing that I do consistently is that every day I wake up, and as much as possible, I am protecting my time to create art. That's it. And here and there, I'm trying to balance the balance for me of business / excitement is how much time am I spending on my own art just because? I like to say simply because, right? Because that's the name of my marketing agency is Why Simply Because. Versus how much time am I doing that for somebody else's Why Simply Because? Right? Why do you want to create what you want to create? There's no, you can say a reasonable answer, and then I'll say why, but why, well, why, and why, and we can get all the way down, and my personal belief is that eventually we'll get to, well, because. Right? Just because I want to. And that's cool. That's okay. That's enough to answer because I want to. You don't have to have an answer that justifies what you are doing and why you are doing it. The only answer needs to be simply because. So no matter what other people think of you, your answer only really matters to you in the end. But as it matters to you, and if you wake up as much as possible and do the thing that you want to do, not because Tim Ferriss does it, not because you think that other people's, oh my God, this person's so successful, they have an amazing morning routine, right? Like, that's why they're successful. No, their morning routine, the reason they're successful is because they're following their own routine. That's it. It's the only, to me, that's the measure of freedom and success. The measure of you being able to spread your unique gifts to the world is a measure of your freedom. And the only person who dictates your freedom beyond like you like really just being at the wrong place at the wrong time and being accused of something and then being locked up or something like that, barring the weirdest level of, somehow restriction of freedom that maybe the world could put on you, you get to choose how you show up all the time. And you get to choose whether or not you show up to create value. You get to choose whether or not you show up to take or to give, right? You could be in 3 states. You can take, you can be in a take state, a harvest state. You can be in a give and take state, a planting and harvest state. And you could be in a give state, a planting state, planting seeds and creating. My thought is that most people's success is a factor of how much time they can spend in a give state. If you could spend as much time as possible in a give state, while understanding that it is important for you to switch states and harvest too, which I'm actually bad at, then you will succeed in business. Now, I say I'm bad. Excuse me. I say I'm bad because I feel the most comfortable giving, although I actually have gotten pretty good at selling, what people would consider to be selling. And I don't think that I'm selling, I'm offering. And when I switched my methodology to saying that my relationship with money and value and all those things, my relationship with my art, is that I am not selling you my art. I am just making it, and here and there, I am creating an organized way, organized meaning it seems organized from your perspective, way of interacting with my art and or observing or feeling my art. So if I was a visual artist, which I am in some ways, like with video and different things, but if I were just like, let's say a traditional fine artist, right, where I made art on canvases, your emotion and response to the canvas is my art, not just what the image is. It's the emotion that you feel that I'm able to make you feel that in and of itself is part of the art as well. So if I can understand that if I do this, it will make people feel this, which therefore creates value in them, which makes them want to give back. See, if I focus on giving you an emotion and focus on giving you emotion, eventually you feel out of balance and you want to give back. And so you'll come up to me like you did and say, man, this guy like really gets me and he really living the lifestyle and he gave me a lot of value, not directly, but just through the art that I've seen him do online. I want to have this person be my mentor. Hopefully he'll agree to, once a month meeting. And I was like, yeah, I kind of agree to that, but I'd rather go deeper first and then we can work out something later if need be. You know what I mean? But the idea was that is art. That is art. And if you could just spend as much focused energy, focused meaning take the chaos that is your thoughts and transmute them into something that is clear, that leads to a clear emotion for somebody else, then it is understandable. And if it's understandable, then it's productizable or serviceable because they can see the outcome, they can see the direct association to the value that it created, and therefore they'll pay you. That to me is the journey of moving from understanding what your superpower is, understanding what kind of art you are willing to create and able to create. You're able to create whatever art you want. There's a difference between being able to and also having natural talent at. I think there is something to be said about talent, okay? But every talent is developable. Like, the only talent is hard work and focus. Those are the biggest talents. If you can maintain focus and then work hard in a focused state, you will enter flow states. And if you enter flow states, you will enter states of, I'm not even thinking about how I'm doing this. I'm just doing it. And if you go from doing to not thinking doing, then essentially not thinking doing is being. You said it earlier. You're like, I am in a, what did you say? An active state of, what did you call it? It was an active state of like you were conscious about your not enoughness.
Oh yeah, consciously competent.
Consciously competent.
Yeah, so aware that I can do it.
You're aware that you can do it. You said it. You subconsciously you said it. Mm-hmm. You're aware that you can do it. Mm-hmm. If you are to be really successful, it's not that you're going to do it, be aware that you can do it for a period of time until eventually you aren't doing it anymore. You just are it. Mm-hmm. I'm not an artist. I'm not a storyteller because I say that I'm a storyteller. I'm a storyteller because when people ask me what I do, I tell them how I be. What I do is just a collection of nows that I do repeatedly. And what I've done and what I am and what I be is that I just storytell. In my natural state, I love this. So people ask me, like, what's the point of you running a podcast? How are you going to monetize it? I'm like, stop worrying about monetizing it. Start just doing it for the sake of building the habits, building the pattern, and understand that if I do, eventually I just am it. And then people are like, wow, you've got a lot of people who are paying attention somehow because you are an artist. And art captures attention indefinitely. All kinds of art captures attention. And the more focused that art, the more likely it is a company and the more it builds into the other things. Now, of course, I could teach you all the specifics of how to build a company and then not only build your own version of doing and being, but then inspire it in others and inspire it in an organized manner that's not only your time, but they're in their time, and that's a company. Or that's an organization, if you will. Right? That's all it is. It's just me hacking your time, saying this is the way that, here's the mission, and here's how I think you can best serve the mission. So if you can spend your time and energy and your art helping this mission, you are now part of the company. The company is just a vision, and it holds that vision as much as possible. If you can maintain holding that vision as much as you possibly can, and all you need to do is do it repeatedly, then you are it. So when I said the best way that you can become a coach is to start coaching, even if you're doing it for free. Coach everywhere you go with every person you interact with. Understand that every person you met somebody yesterday, as an example.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, I'm recently divorced. I'm all these things, right? He basically said, and what did he say? He basically said that you were living his dream.
Yeah, that's what he said. He was almost starstruck by me in my van.
Great.
Which was very honorable because when you get confident with something, it just becomes like, it's my life now. But for him to be like really amazed and that he wanted to just give me, like, he ended up giving me a bag of apples and blueberries because he was just like so honored to be in my presence.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was wonderful because then I was able to get his contact information. And now hopefully he's going to come to the meetup that I'm organizing on Thursday.
So see how simple that was? You had a driving billboard. You were just being. You were just being, and somebody noticed your art, was like, oh, I'm curious. Tell me more. And because you were receptive enough to understand that, you, without knowing it, have a lead.
Yes.
You want to talk in business terms? You have a lead.
Yes.
This person is in a state of loss. They lost their family. They got a divorce. They had a kid?
Divorce and 2 kids, 5 and 9.
Yeah. Divorce and 2 kids.
Yeah.
Is like, you're living my dream. It's a man.
Yes.
Man meaning because I say that only because you want to work with males,
Yes.
right? Or men. I don't know how much more obvious it could be.
Yeah, no, 100%.
You just need to move to the conversation at some point of being like, hey, are you interested if I were to coach you to get to this position if you're really serious about this?
Yeah.
Not if I'm serious about it, if you're serious about it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the person, you put this offer in front of them and they're like, well, what would that look like? And then the only thing you need to do, legit, is invent it. And the more prepared you are at your invention,
Mm-hmm.
then the more cohesive it will sound and the more appealing it will sound. If I told you about this mentorship in a way that was just like, well, maybe you'll come do this and this is kind of the outcome, kind of the thing, you would have been like, maybe, but maybe we'll just do it my way, or maybe we won't do it at all. But because I just said it confidently, I was just like, hey, I've done this before. I think it's really worked. I think it will really serve you. Are you in? Then you're like, well, of course I'm in. You just reflected back to me everything I wanted, told me that it would happen, gave me the confidence, and then gave me a way that it could potentially happen. Here's the thing. When Samantha was like, oh, what's your plan when Jordan shows up? I'm like, I don't know. We'll have a little my only plan is that we'll create a little podcast at some point, either tonight or tomorrow morning, and we'll determine a plan. I'm like, because it's not about my art. That my art is, I don't always show up at the canvas knowing exactly, having pre-drawn the whole thing. Now, it doesn't mean I didn't make an outline, right? I have an outline of what should happen or could happen, not should, could happen, but you're the person doing the art. So I cannot tell you what your art looks like. And I cannot tell you when it's done or finished or not finished. What I'll say is it's never finished. It's not when Karen's done that now all of a sudden it's going to feel finished. It's not. It will never be that. Karen will never be done. Because it's a relationship. It is an art. And here and there you determine, okay, I'm done with this canvas. Right? And you move to the next one and you'll have the next version of Karen maybe one day. Or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll have a house or maybe you'll choose to live in a boat or something. I don't know. Right? Or a plane. Maybe you'll get a plane. I know you're a skydiver enthusiast. So yes. Let me put it in skydiving terms. Your ability to wake up every day, say, I want to go skydiving today, and face my fear, face my comfort zone a little bit, is you get up, you find the plane, you get in the plane, you do everything possible to jump out of the plane, and then you control what you can control on the way down to land yourself on the ground and be okay. There's nothing else you can control. You don't control the chaos. The only thing you control is how you respond to it. Right? So I think that you value, and sometimes you look at me or others and you're like, wow, those people have like really good focus and all these other things. And yes, we do. But I'm not controlling the chaos that's happening. I'm not controlling what happened. I don't control the weather. I don't control tons of shit that's around me. But what I control is my way of interacting with my time. And so the number one skill set that you can learn is how to control or how to manage and be in unison with your time. Not so that you say, this is exactly what I have to do, but more so that you create a space for you to enter flow states. A space that says, this state is, I didn't determine when we were going to end this podcast. I just said we're going to do it and we're going to go as far as we need to go. And I left enough space in my calendar to go 3 hours, we can go for 3 minutes. And I just have the experience of knowing how long generally it might take. That's all. my experience only speaks to my understanding of how long it might take, but not how long it will take. So I don't know the outcome of your mentorship. I can't know the outcome of your mentorship. What I know is that what has helped me, what you know is what has helped you, and that's your pillars, and that's why you're just organizing it to support other people. And the fastest way for you to support other people is to consistently end up in conversations with people who show interest in your way of life or in one of the 6 pillars or some of the 6 pillars, and then say, do you need help with that? That's it. To me, what success would look like is you get your first client by the end of the month. It's one way of seeing it. Another version of success is that at least you have your pillars and your program and your pitch down. Maybe you don't have your first client, but you have like, this is my program, this is my pitch, and this is what it looks like fully. It's another version of success. A third version of success is you're ready to start filming it. Like literally you're like, I'm so prepared that I did all the work that I'm ready to start filming it. But I don't think that you should rush to film it. Even though I understand that you believe that it will lead to more freedom. That is kind of true. But guess what? I have an online course and I still spend just as many hours working as anybody else. Because there is no freedom from your art. You just choose to do it whether or not you choose to do it. Now, can your art be left in a gallery somewhere and create value while you're not there? That's what you are asking for. Yes, it can. Is that the thing that you should rush to do right away? No. No, you should be focusing on how many success cases do you have first. Think about what's the testimonial you want on the sales page for your course. That's what you need first. Because everything else you're going to say is your version of bullshit. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's bullshit. I'm just saying...
Yeah, you're right. I know what you mean.
Yeah. But the effect or the emotion that it had on others is the proof that your bullshit isn't so bullshit. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. So if you can be mindful to know that the fastest path for you to understand how good your system is, the fastest way is just to do it with as many people as possible. And if that means doing it on a pay what you want basis at the beginning, just to get like the yeses that you really want to get, because that's maybe the level of confidence you have, or if it means, hey, I want to do this and it costs $1,000, either way, you have to be putting it out there. That's the edge. The version of skydiving of this mentorship is how often are you willing to say, would you like to work together? Would you like to work with me? Would you like to create with me? Would you like how can I help you? Like those are the questions. Those conversations are upstream to you living this lifestyle and being paid to live this lifestyle. How do you feel about all that?
Really good. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like the biggest thing you keep talking about is art.
Yes.
And I never, until last night when we had more conversation, thought of what I do as art. I never thought of it. But the more you talk about it, the more it totally makes sense. It is art. Because like I'm creating, I am thinking of things in my mind and then manifesting them in some kind of way. And then, this is art. Or making videos is art. And also the whole thing of like getting someone to see the value. Mm-hmm. Like I'm creating this thing, I'm making this form of art, and how can I get their attention, and how can they see that and then want to be curious even more and then get into it. And just like the guy, like Karen being a canvas and me opening up my doors and all this happening. And I was kind of a little bit in tune with that, and I was trying to see, if anything would happen if I did that, and it kind of worked out. And I think I've achieved a little bit of success in my life without being conscious of it. I kind of have a little bit of unconsciousness.
Yeah.
And just like you said, it is a lead, and I kind of thought of it in that way as well. It's like, well, this guy seems perfect. And the fact that he's a financial advisor too, like...
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like accountants, financial advisors, engineers is kind of more the market I'm looking at. Because these are people who are like stuck in an office or like corporate world and a little bit of high stress and
Yeah.
there's
Have they
difficulties.
also have the financial means of hiring you?
Exactly. Yeah, and they have the cash, which is the big thing because that has to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely like that art, the whole art thing you said as well is just something I never thought about. And yeah, as you touched on the last thing is like me having that question and that conversation of trying to get clients and customers and this and that. That is the hard part for me right now. And that's what I'm trying to bring more awareness to is that is difficult. But again, I like that difficultness. So I'm trying to, like the conversation I had with myself was like, well, the reason I don't like doing this and selling is because I never have done it before.
Yes.
I'm not good at it, so I'm not confident. So why would I want to do it? Because it's resistance.
Sure.
So I'm just fighting resistance until I can break through that resistance and get some kind of flow state with that whole selling. And it does, like you said, it should theoretically lead to the success that I'm trying to get to.
So the simplest way, the way I see it, like the simplest way for you to go about this is in the next 30 days, you should meet up with that guy physically.
Yes.
Again. Now, you said he might come to the thing.
Yeah.
Great. Set a time with him to meet with him one-on-one to have that conversation by just asking him if he's willing to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Like directly.
Yeah.
And then my likelihood that he's going to say yes to the conversation is high.
Mm-hmm.
Have the conversation. Set a time post Saturday when I'm not here to go have the conversation and to get to the point and detach yourself from the outcome to get to the point of, can I help you? Are you interested? Here's what I would like to do.
Yeah.
And all you need to do is come up with a number that says, this feels scary to the person, and this is what will make them take it seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that line of, they'll do it. It's a bit of a stretch, but because it's a bit of a stretch,
they're more likely to invest.
Yeah, and they're going to commit.
They see it as an investment, not a cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you just need to use those words as well. It doesn't cost something. The investment is...
Interesting.
Right? How much does it cost? Well, it's not that it costs something. I don't believe that this is going to cost you anything. I believe that this is going to grow for you. It's an investment.
Yes. Ooh,
it's not a product. It's not a product.
No.
You're not just buying this thing and then I snap my fingers and then you have your magic pill. That's not how this works. So if you are willing to invest in yourself and understand that you investing in yourself is the best investment you can make, Mr. Financial Advisor, then you will understand that that's what you should do. In the same way that I should invest in my retirement. We don't call it cost in my retirement. So you, Mr. Financial Advisor, should invest in your happiness, in your freedom.
Yeah, you're right. That is an investment. I like that. That change of wording is very impactful.
And it's true.
Mm-hmm. And you are right. Investing in yourself is the best thing. But getting people to realize that, hey, it's not that I cost this much a month. It's that you are investing this much per month
in you. And you trust that I will be able to inspire that in you. Mm-hmm. But it's in you. Yeah. You're not investing it in me.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's willing to spend money on themselves. They should be anyway. Anybody who's going to be qualified for whatever it is you're offering is going to be qualified for investing in themselves.
Yeah.
So, like, my thought is the likelihood that you can close that guy, the likelihood that, and I say close, like I'm going to use very marketing speak here, not to be insensitive, just to be business-like about it.
Yeah. The
likelihood that you can close that into an opportunity is high, very high. I think it's a 80% chance that if you had a conversation with him 4 to 5 times, he'll say yes. And half of that is just you showing up with clarity as to what it is that you are going to ask him to invest in himself with. Just how certain you are of the path that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I think all you need to do is explain. Here's how I work. Here's the system. We speak X amount of time, or we do this in this way, and it will last for this amount of minimum time. Here are the 6 pillars that we go through, or whatever. Or here are the 6 pillars that I would like to talk to people about. Which are the 3 that stick out to you? Great, these 3, great. For the next 3 months, this is what we'll do. We'll focus on those 3. It's not to say that we're going to ignore the others, but we're going to focus on those 3. Let them pick them. They don't have to do all 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
don't limit yourself by the fact that just, you know what I mean? Don't limit yourself by the fact that somebody has to go through all 6 pillars.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what I'm doing with Evan. So Evan, I'm building a course with him. So I did a full like deep dive with him, and then we focused on just 3 pillars. So the biggest one for him is like more so the social thing, but more so the like relationship and getting a girlfriend, and then his like work relationship, and then finance involved with that to get to some kind of freedom, because right now his work mindset isn't that healthy. So because it's more mindfulness. So you get mindfulness, the intimacy pillar, and then the social pillar. So it's just these 3 that we're going to go and work on, and that's what the focus is. Instead of going through, okay, well, there's the 6 pillars, and you have to go through this one first before you can get to this one. No, because some people are more developed. Like, he makes good money, so I'm not really worried about money with him. So I don't have to tell him to save money, because he saves money. I mean, yes, he can be better. Everybody can be better, but he wants to get this type of girlfriend, so I'm teaching him how to get that type of girlfriend.
Yeah. Seems fairly simple.
Yeah, that's fun. That's really cool. I made him, because I also hung out with him for like 4 days, so I got to kind of like what you're doing with me is like you really feel out the person and the environment, especially with his family as well. And I got him to realize that the reason he has so many female friends but no like sexual partners is because he has a sister. And he grew up with a sister, so every girl he meets now,
he treats like their sister.
Exactly. And I talked him through making that connection in his mind. And now he knows. So now I'm trying to get him to bridge the gap between like friendship to like sexual relationship by getting him to
that it's okay to essentially have a sexual attraction towards somebody and to display it.
Yeah, and it's okay to have these conversations too. So that's what I'm trying to get him to do is like ask more sexual related questions to start being more comfortable in that, because he's very uncomfortable in that. It's like more of like an awkward, weird thing for him.
Yeah.
So I'm getting him to learn that.
Great.
Yeah, it is wonderful.
So what is success look like for you at the end of 30 days?
Yeah, success is, like you said, I want a client by the end of 30 days, 100%. That was the thought I had before, just didn't mention it. And then, just that more so confidence to be organized with myself and live this lifestyle. And also, like, I don't want to record the online course, but yes, I want to have either like the script done or like the outline more so, and know how I can go about doing this course. Because right now it's just like thoughts.
Yeah.
And
how you would go about recording the course as well? Like physically recording it.
Yeah. Like I want to have like hey, here's my online course. It's pretty much ready to go. Or just put more time into like the wording and the information, but it's like, here's the blocks, here's everything. Do some more information and research. And then now you know how to record it, you know how to build it and put it out there and market it. And it's ready to go, given an X amount of time.
Yep. Done. Doable. Seems fairly easy to me. Because I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel inspired to just move to action. Cool. Is there any other questions or things that you want to share or ask before we drill down on the flow of our time together?
No, just the other thought I had was because there's so many people that we're connecting with, not just you, but Samantha and everyone else. Like that's the other thing I want to do after the 30 days is like be able to work with so many like creators and artists and people that do this, like, because I haven't been in an environment like this before. It's usually a lot of solo-ness.
Yeah.
So I just want to, I guess, grow that skill of like just working with people and like benefiting as much as possible from you, but you also benefiting as much as possible from me in this like more so like art form. Because normally like when you meet someone, you're like, yeah, I want to give you stuff and give you advice or this and that or whatever it might be. But this is like a different form of giving because we're each like
doing creating together. It's like co-creating.
Yeah, and that's
like a co-art.
Yeah, it's something I've never been in. So I'm excited to like, then all of a sudden we do a podcast with Garrett too, like having that flow state too is like, to me, very interesting to have like so many people like passionate, successful in their mind, and just like doing well and wanting other people to do well, but we're on the same page. Because for example, like I was with the van lifers, and we're all doing van life and building the vans together, but that's a different dynamic than this.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Okay. So to me, the pattern is simple. We meet every day at 8. We pick something that you're going to focus on, and we have to do minimum 2 power hours a day. So normally I suggest we do 1, but in this accelerated version, we have to do 2 hours of focused work a day. That to me is a determined successful day.
Awesome.
That's it. Everything else, I mean, you do what you got to do. You know what I mean? If you want to do yoga, you do yoga. You want to sit down and talk with Sam, you sit down and talk with Sam. Whatever that is, you have to do 2 hours a day. Now, what you do your 2 hours on, I am not going to tell you. I am going to ask you questions regularly about how you feel it is advancing.
Okay.
Is that fair? Yeah. So what I mean by that is, I'm not going to tell you what your power hour should be. I can suggest here and there. I might suggest that I believe if you put time here, it will unlock other things later. Right? I believe, like, to me, the first thing that has to be fucking clear is the 6 pillars, what you're teaching, and how clear you are about that. How do you feel about that?
Getting that done?
Is it done? I don't know. Where do you... I know I've seen elements of it.
Yeah.
How clear do you feel on that thing?
My initial thought is like 20%.
Okay.
Like, because I know what I want to do with it. I have a couple different outlines and like descriptions of it. But for like the detail and all the knowledge, like that's where it hasn't been fully built.
Okay. So what's reasonable for you to do a power hour today on that?
I think I just review everything that I have. Because there's different...
So it's been a minute since you've looked at it, basically, is what you're telling me.
Exactly. And there's different pieces, separate. Yeah.
Okay. Can you, over the next 6 days, do 1 hour a day on cementing as much as possible? And remember, it's a fluid cement, aka it will change as you go through it. You can grow it constantly. But can you say, if I had to film this tomorrow, I could? Not that you could with the words or the verbiage.
Okay, interesting.
But if I had to, like, if at the, I don't know, the meetup that we're having, you would be able to stand in front of somebody, and then I would be able to look at your pillar and be like, talk to me about intimacy. Could you deliver a speech of an hour or a process of an hour for people to go through to find and come in touch with their intimacy? And maybe the challenges, the limitations, and maybe the potential solutions towards those different things.
Yeah, I think I could probably talk for at least 30 minutes on that.
Great.
Probably an hour.
So I want you to spend 6 hours over the next 6 days. You could do all 6 hours today if you wanted to. Okay?
Interesting.
But you have to do 6 hours over 6 days on that.
Okay.
So in 6 days' time, meaning we're Tuesday, so Wednesday, we're counting today because it's still early. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. By the end of the week, right? Monday morning, we should be able to have a conversation. I won't be here physically, but I'll check in with you.
Okay.
Are you confident that these 6 things are done? If you want me to see it, be done by Friday night. You know what I mean? If you want me to see it in person, be done by Friday night. But I don't think that that's unreasonable. It boils down to you making a decision on feeling really comfortable about those things. There's no excuse. The time is here. There's no, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I need to think about it. No, you don't need to think about anything. You need to experience it. That's it. What you need to think about is bullshit. You just need to get it out. You do need to think about that to get it out. You just need to process it, sit with it, think about it, do it. And then you're going to build it by having the conversations. And then you'll have a coaching call with somebody, maybe this financial advisor guy, right? And then you'll add like a little chapter or bullet point. You're like, oh, I just like went down in the flow state of that conversation. I kind of went down this storyline that I want to kind of develop. I think I want to say that one again. Or I'm going to make that part of the course. And you add those layers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Here's what I'll say. You don't focus on you having the answers for the person. Focus on having the right questions.
Interesting.
Build it from the perspective of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can ask the right questions, then you will inspire the right thought patterns, and everything is downstream from that. You're not with them all the time. So if you are only giving them answers, they forget the answers. But if you teach them how to think or feel or move through something, then you are giving them the tool that they need to fish, not the fish. The tool that they need to fish is to figure out what are the questions. Right now I'm giving you an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But I asked you what the answer was first, what your answer was, and now I'm giving you what my answer is, which is the answer is you have to be more decisive. And you have to get to a point where this is the day that it's finished. Version 1. That's the answer. The answer is saying, you literally said it. When I had a deadline, I got Karen done. Why? Because you knew you were coming here on September 3rd. So you did everything you possibly could to make sure that it was done as much as possible. And you time crunched. Time all of a sudden forced you to create a flow state, and you did the fucking flow state and you figured it out. But when you have an endless amount of time, it's like, well, I could do it later. Because balance is really key and I need to work on cooking my chickpeas. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. What you need to work on is getting your shit together. Because then you'll have chickpeas for days when you get your shit together. You know what I mean? Like right now, you are in a reductionist mindset. Reductionist meaning you're like, oh, how can I survive if worst case scenario? I have the van, I have the thing. You know what I mean? I bought all this food, so I'm going to be okay. Cool. You now know you're going to be okay. But for let's say 6 months, you have enough for sure runway for 6 months, in my opinion, because you can move less and really spend very little to survive at this moment. Okay. So now you know you have that runway, but what's month 6? And are you going to wait until you're there? And the answer is, I think you would have. Yeah. You naturally would have done that. So let's not do that. The answer isn't do 6 things and no. The answer is decide. The first thing you have to understand is how to decide. Right?
Yeah.
Planning and scheduling is just a game of decisions. Mm-hmm. What should I spend my time on? And then you make a decision versus flowing in it all the time. So organized chaos is, here's the chaos. Here's the things that I'm feeling. I brain dump them. That's the chaos. It's a recognition of chaos through the brain dump. And then and this is the organization I want to bring to this chaos. It's the combination of those two things that overlap, and then you sync. And you will always be overly ambitious. Maybe not. Some people are under ambitious. But I would only do mentorships if people are overly ambitious. So you're overly ambitious. I know you are. and then the intersect of those things. So success looks like to me, and I just decided it, 2 power hours a day. It's arbitrary. I could have said 3. I could have said 4. I could have said whatever the fuck, and you would have just been like, okay, I guess that's what it is. You know what I mean? I just decided.
Yeah.
I just decided.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 power hours a day. My general thought is you would do one we convene at 8. Mm-hmm. We take amount of time that we need to take, and then you do it immediately after. And then when would you think that the next time you should do a power hour is throughout the day? At what point in the day, give or take?
Yeah, be somewhere around like 4 o'clock.
Maybe somewhere around 4 o'clock.
Yeah. So yeah, nice. Because I usually get tired in the afternoon. So yeah, I would say 3:30 would be perfect.
See how I caught you there?
Yes, I know. I like it.
That's all it was. And I set the trap. I was like, hey, all you need to do is decide. And then I asked you a question, which the only thing you needed to do was make a decision.
Yeah.
And your default was maybe somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the first thing we need to eliminate.
Yes.
Not maybe somewhere. When do you, I just tell people what I want to do when I want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, where should we meet in Montreal? I'm like, I don't know. Ask people. It's not my meetup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you give me the power of choosing where we meet, then it's my meetup.
Mm.
But it's not my meetup. It's your meetup. Now, we're inviting a bunch of people I know, sure, like, you know what I mean? Or that we know now, I guess, through the Superhero Academy and these different things. You are inviting the community.
Yeah.
Great. That's how you're part of it. But the community needs you every once in a while to just decide. If you decide, they get to experience. Right? You don't go to the club and then tell the DJ what music to play all night. He or she decides, not to be, gender stereotyping. He or she decides, or they decide to be super politically correct. But they decide and you experience. And if you can create experiences for people, then that is them creating and being evoked by your art. Art is the emotion that you can inflict on somebody based on them being exposed to your art. If you decide what emotion you are going to evoke in them, the likelihood that you evoke it in them is higher than if you just say, well, maybe you'll evoke this. Hopefully it does that. No, not hopefully. Work at the art until it does that. Is that fair?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, so every day, 8 a.m. we meet.
Okay.
You do a power hour right after.
Sweet.
Every day, too, you meet with yourself, not with me anymore. You can come and ask me, I did this power hour, what do you think? I'm going to do my next power hour on this. You can come even tell me what it is.
Okay.
But the first one, I'm going to help you decide. The second one, I won't.
Okay.
Cool?
Yeah.
So in the morning at 8 a.m., I'm going to help you decide which one you should do at 8 a.m. But at 3:30, I'm not helping you.
Okay.
I will give you feedback, or you can ask me, which is you deciding to ask me. Doesn't mean I won't give you an answer. I could give you an answer. And every day you feel like you need to have that answer for me, you can. And you will feel like you need to. And you will also feel ashamed to ask me. And either way, you should ask me, and I will answer.
Okay.
And by answering, the only thing I will be doing is deciding for you.
Yes. But that's okay.
That's okay. It's totally okay that I decide for you. And again, I'm going to say it again. It's totally okay that I decide for you. And by the end of it, I'm not always going to be there to decide for you. Mm-hmm. So you will eventually make the decision yourself. Stage 1 of you being empowered. Everything else that we're going to do throughout the rest of the mentorship, I mean, I have a plan, but I don't think I need to tell you it. Right?
Sweet, yeah.
Yeah. So let's 8 a.m. meet, 3:30 power hour. I will try and match that. I'll do something similar.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So how are you going to know whether or not you maintain the focus for the hour? How can we measure success? Not in the outcome. Mm-hmm. AKA, I start the power hour, I hope I'm done this thing. Yes, that's one way of outcome. Mm-hmm. How can we measure whether or not you are staying true to the focus? Not the outcome of the task. The focus.
I don't know how to measure it, but just how much I don't get distracted,
Sure.
I guess, right? So I don't want to be on my phone.
Yes.
I don't want to have other things distracting me.
Yeah. So you want to remove potential notifications, distractions. I don't know how you operate your phone, but if you have tons of notifications or things that go off, remove them.
Yeah.
And you want to enter into like airplane mode
Yes.
so that you can be in your own flight of your own mind.
Yeah, I don't want any worries.
Yeah. Let me rephrase that sentence. You want clarity.
Yeah.
Not that you don't want any worries.
Yes, that's a bad thought. Huh. Yes. I like that. I want clarity. It's a way better way to think about it.
Don't avoid.
Because then you're thinking about the thing you don't. Yeah. Wow. Brain blast. Nice.
Yeah. It's the don't think of a pink elephant. Yeah, then you're going to think of a pink elephant. Don't try to avoid the thing. Just lean into the thing you want.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. You have done well at avoiding what you didn't want. I think you've gone a lot of your way through avoiding what you didn't want to figure out something you might want. Okay? That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Mainly because you were saying, I'm deciding not that. And that's a decent decision. I mean, it was good decisions. I think you are on the right path. But that is the old way of you thinking.
Yes.
To decide not something is not the way that you are going to be more powerful. You will be more powerful when you're deciding to something. And at first, you're going to decide to do something. And then eventually, you will understand to be something. Intellectually, you can already understand that. But emotionally and confidence world, you can't. So, and I can't teach you it. You can only do, and then eventually as you do and you're really confident in your do, you stop thinking and then you start being. So, I think that wraps up this conversation. Any other questions?
No, that sounds really good to me. It's been fun.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if anybody is watching this or future version of Jordan, welcome to the mentorship. Let's get it going. Let's start the first power hour.